follow the points I would like to make in the course of this short presentation. I hope we have enough copies because, as I said, we did it on a very short notice.
Very well. Just give us a few seconds to have the copies of your documents so that you can start. Right, we are ready now.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will not go word for word on most of the document, but the question you have asked me, which I think occupies everybody right now in the country, is the issue of the security of His Excellency the Deputy President and how we provide security to VIPs and VVIPs in the country. I would like to draw your attention to a document I call Annex 1 that is in blue. In the document you have, because that is going to be the basis of my presentation to you. And if we are all together on that document, on Annex 1, I would like to state at the outset, Mr. Chairman, sir, that we have about 4,000 officers dedicated to the protection of VIPs and VVIPs across the country. And many of them come from the SGB formation, which looks after government buildings, government installations, or what in the police terms we call CIPU, the Critical Infrastructure Protection Unit. And this includes the airports, our critical entry points, critical installations across the country. But the protection of His Excellency the Deputy President and the protection of His Excellency the President is a separate matter. Mr. Chairman, I would like to be on record on this matter. His Excellency the President and His Excellency the Deputy President are protected by a special formation we call the Presidential Escort Unit. This unit is trained, prepared, and their single or singular responsibility is to protect the presidency and protect the President and His Excellency the Deputy President. If you look at the diagram that I've given you, and I've left out so many details for obvious reasons because it's a document that is going to be exposed to the public. If you look at the protection of the Deputy President in terms of its infrastructure, is a multi-layered endeavor. The layer that is critical to us is the inner layer, which is essentially the core security ecosystem for His Excellency the Deputy President. And this is occupied by the Presidential Escort Unit. Currently, His Excellency the Deputy President has got 74 officers, that layer, who provide 24/7 protection of His Excellency the Deputy President. And if I didn't remove the details on this, if I had brought the actual architecture as is drawn and presented by security people, which I can't because this is an open meeting for obvious reasons, we normally say that the protection is given regardless of where, when, how, and so on. The Presidential Escort is dedicated to protecting the Deputy President when he's seated, standing, lying down, moving 24/7. And he has got 74 officers dedicated to this under the command of a Commissioner of Police. There's a Commissioner of Police dedicated to this, assisted by one Senior Superintendent of Police and 2 Chief Inspectors of Police. By tradition and by law, that is how the holders of that office are protected. Mr. Chairman, I have taken the trouble to demonstrate to you, because I went back to the records, and if you look at the document you have marked Annex 2, I have taken the trouble to demonstrate to you that the holders of that office have been protected before from that unit. I have shown you the strength of personnel that protected that office before, and I've shown you the highest rank of command that managed that protection before. You will notice at the end of that document that the current holder of that office has got the highest number of personnel to be ever assigned in that office, and also the highest ranking police officer to command that protection of the current holder of the office. Because Honorable Jaramogi Oginga Odinga had 30 officers. Honorable Joseph Murumbi had 22. Honorable Daniel Arap Moi had 34. The Honorable President Mwai Kibaki had 26. The Honorable Josephat Karanja, 22. Honorable the late Professor George Saitoti, 30. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, 22. And Honorable Michael Kijana Wamalwa, 22. Honorable Mudi Awori, 22. Honorable Raila Odinga, although he did not occupy that office when he was Prime Minister, had 57. And Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, 26. The current holder of that office, the Honorable His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, has got 74. And you notice that throughout the period, the highest ranking officer protecting that office was a chief inspector. But in the current case, we have a commissioner of police, we have a senior superintendent of police, and 2 chief inspectors commanding this unit. This is the unit that provides the core protection, or the core management of the security of His Excellency the Deputy President. But I'm going to demonstrate to you shortly, again using these documents, that this office is allocated even more officers than those ones. I want to emphasize one point, that contrary to what has been going around in public spaces and comments and some irresponsible discussions that the Deputy President doesn't have protection, he does have protection, because the team that protects the Deputy President is the presidential escort, not the outer ring. But before I come to the numbers, let's go to the same document, Annex 1, and look at the second layer of protection for His Excellency the Deputy President. If you look at that, in the current case, we have layer 2. This layer 2 is the outer security layer, which brings together officers from the SGB, officers from the prison service, officers from the critical infrastructure protection unit, and this has got 121 personnel dedicated to His Excellency the Deputy President. And these people operate on 24-hour support. I am only talking about personnel. I'm not even listing the assets that we have allocated for the Office of the Deputy President. So if you go to layer 2, you have 121 officers looking after the Deputy President. Bear in mind, Mr. Chairman, I need to emphasize this again. Please, honorable members, take note. In layer 1, we have the presidential escort team that is led by Mr. Yampoi. In addition to the 74 officers there, we have a dedicated team of GSU officers, 5 in number, highly trained. I would not want to go into any details about this for obvious reasons. We have 5 GSU officers because His Excellency the Deputy President is driven by GSU officers. That is why it is actually frustrating to hear people saying GSU was withdrawn from His Excellency the Deputy President. In addition to that, the Deputy President has got 6 DCI officers. So in that inner layer, you have 74 from the presidential escort, you have 5 from GSU, and you have 6 from DCI, a total of 85 officers. That is the inner layer, layer 1. Layer 2, you have 121 that I've mentioned from the various formations. And these formations, these are, people who patrol compounds and so on and so forth. I will shortly demonstrate to you that we have additional security staff looking after the Deputy President. Then there's the third layer. The third layer is auxiliary security layer. We have auxiliary security because the holder of that office, he is endowed to also have active business life or active economic life or active other life, may be in various places or may work in various places and as other activities and other interests in other places. So, for example, in that outer layer, we have I'm saying about because I'm going to explain to you shortly what that means. There are officers who are assigned by the Inspector General because of a direct request from the Office of the Deputy President to installations either owned by the Deputy President or businesses where the Deputy President is likely to spend time, and therefore his securities are concerned. There are officers who are made available by the local police command, depending on where His Excellency the Deputy President's business or activities may be. So we call those ones secondary notifications from secondary role players in his office. For example, if the Deputy President has a farm in Moroni and his manager notifies the sub-count commander in Moroni that this farm belongs to the Deputy President, the practice in the police service is that the local police command will factor in their beat arrangement as they move around. They will factor in X number of police officers who, in their patrol and their movement, will keep an eye on that farm in Moroni because of that interest. So those ones we call they are made available. They out of that secondary notification. But there are some who, because of the interest of the Deputy President in particular areas, his office requests directly that we avail police officers. And for example, I can't go down the list. The whole list is long, but I'm going to give you about 10 examples of installations where there are police officers because of the fact that the Deputy President may go there or may have interest or may spend time there. And this is why I said the number of about 51. It could be more than that. For example, Kitengela Gas, where the Deputy President has gas oil business, 6 police officers. These ones are stationed. Weston Hotel, about 6 police officers. Because if they are 4 on duty, 2 at night, 2 during the day, there will be 2 other relievers, as it were. Murumbi Farm, Transmara Narok, LR Transmara stroke Intona stroke 34, 395 or about 1,000 acres, 395 hectares, 6 police officers. ADC Laikipia, Mutara Ranch, about 15,000 acres, 6 police officers. These are the secondary notifications. A farm where we are not stationing personnel, but the local police command has been notified that that is an area where the DP may be interested. So as you do your beat planning, you plan your beat with that in mind and make sure that that is okay. Dolphin Hotel, Mombasa, 6. Mata Farm, Taita Taveta, about 2,500 acres, LR 10287/10/11, 6 police officers. There is a private residence in Elgon View, we have 4. There's a poultry farm in Eldoret, we have 4. There is a private residence again here in Eldoret where we have 3 prison warders and 1 AP. There is also an installation, for example, called Kwai Island Development Limited. I think this is Wilson Airport where there are 2 hangars and 5 helicopters. The local police command is notified by secondary notification to avail about 5 police officers to look after that. So we have roughly, in that deployment, that general assignment, you are talking about those who are stationed, like the ones in Weston or in Kitengela Gas, present there, and those who, through secondary notification, the local police command would factor their own beat planning to make sure that If that's a farm that is owned by the DP, his animals are there, or his property is there, you keep an eye on that. But still, it's a resource for us in the security sector. So cumulatively, when you look at that, Mr. Chairman, sir, and you go back to Annex 2, in conclusion then, you will see that cumulatively, the personnel, in terms of personnel, the strength of personnel allocated to this office is 257. As I've tabulated, I've told you 74 from Presidential Escort, 5 DCI, 5 GSU, 6 DCI, total 85. Then you add the 121, as I said, plus about, this figure may not, the 51 may not actually be totally accurate, because given the amount of time that we had, we didn't get all the notifications where they have been given. There could be slightly more than that. But anyway, roughly working with that estimate, that is the strength of personnel. I have not listed the assets for obvious reasons, Mr. Chairman, sir. This is an open meeting. And then I think it will be prejudicial to security to go to details beyond this. The point I'm making is this, Mr. Chairman, sir. We have provided sufficient security to the holder of the office of Deputy President in our country. And as the CS in charge, I want to assure both the committee and the country that I am not aware of anything in the past or in the present that has come close to threatening the security of the holder of the office of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. We are very highly trained personnel in the security sector. We take this as a very fundamental duty and a fundamental responsibility, because it's not just a matter of national security, it's also a matter of our national pride. It is also a matter of the image of the country. Because if the security of number 2 in command is an issue of concern, then it means we are actually a bunch of jokers and there's nothing we are doing. We have done the best we can in all circumstances to ensure that we provide sufficient security to the holder of the office of the Deputy President. As for the rearrangement, Mr. Chairman, sir, I would like to say, I will not talk about withdrawal. There was no withdrawal. It's a rearrangement of the second layer of security by the Inspector General of Police. The Inspector General exercises discretion, but in matters of that kind, he also consults within the structures of the security sector, the National Security Advisory Committee, NSAC, the National Security Council. That decision, Mr. Chairman, and I want to be very sincere to you here, was not whimsical. It's not something that the Inspector General woke up in the morning and said, I am going to reorganize this security in this particular manner. So many considerations were made. We looked at a number of things, some of which I would beg your indulgence that I don't have to discuss here, because this is an open meeting and some of those things may be prejudicial to the security of our country. And besides, I don't have the clearance of the Council to discuss its deliberations on that kind of matter. What has happened, however, has all been legal, procedural, has been done effectively. And as I've demonstrated to you, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, we've acted very openly and very considerately. If there is any issue that we need to respond to in this matter, as long as it's not one that is going to be prejudicial to operational details, we can respond to it. But I want to urge you, before I end my submission to the committee, that please, Mr. Chairman, sir, honorable members, speak for us, because when we are insulted at funerals and churches and all those places, we have no way of defending ourselves. And those who are doing that, don't ask us the facts. I have demonstrated to you, for example, that the protection unit that protects His Excellency the Deputy President from the presidential escort of 74 people is intact. No one touched it. And for the first time since independence, and I have demonstrated to you since Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, I have demonstrated to you this is the time it is the highest level of qualification in terms of command. We are serious enough. So it's not right to insinuate that there is failure on our part or there are gaps in what we are doing. There are no gaps at all. Everything that is being done is being done procedurally, and everything that's being done is being done clearly according to the law. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I very respectfully submit.
Very well, thank you, Honorable CS, for that submission. I'm sure members are now well informed and will be able to engage. So members, I will give chance to those who wish to clarify further. But even as I do that, I am interested to know, because I've looked at this table which is of interest, that is Annex 2, and all the way from when Honorable Jaramogi Oginga Odinga started as the Vice President, I want to believe that, all the way the numbers have not exceeded 60. That is the combined security, both presidential escort and any other. Now this one, you are telling us the presidential escort is 74, and there's another 121 APs, another 5 GSU drivers, 6 DCI, and 51 from various properties, totaling to 257. And that's very, very important. So what informs this number of 257 that you have now provided? Is it the case that when His Excellency the Deputy President, or for example the chair of this esteemed committee, requests for security, now that I am in this committee, I can get any number that I want? And how does that sit in the light of the security challenges in the country? Because as much as you are aware, I'm coming from Kirinyaga and there were security issues there. How does that sit with the challenges that you have? Does it then also pose a challenge for your provision of security? Secondly, what caused the rearrangement? I don't know whether you'll say that is a security issue, but what caused that rearrangement to happen for the security of the Deputy President? And then I will also leave it to members. You just pick all of them and you will answer.